itchy mohair-covered train seat and stared out the train window at the stacks and the soot-blackened brick buildings chugging by. She was on her way to New York City. She was through with Mother and Father and their rules. She was going to the Henry Street Settlement House, and she was going to find Chloe. Before she left, Chloe had told Violet about settlement houses. They were mostly started in bad neighborhoods in the big cities by young college men and women. They lived in the settlement houses and did whatever they could to help out, taught English classes, took care of sick people, organized children's clubs. There were even some workers in the settlement houses who called themselves social workers, although Violet wasn't quite sure what those were. It had something to do with socialism. Socialism, Chloe had once explained to her, meant the idea that people should take care of each other instead of just themselves. Well, Violet was big enough to take care of herself and whoever else needed it. She had snuck out of the house in the very first morning light, taking her savings of $3.92, tied up in a handkerchief, pinned inside her midi blouse. Violet couldn't face another scene. She hated scenes, and besides, she very much doubted that she would have been able to leave if there had been a fight, since unlike Chloe, she was only 11 and didn't have the hope chest. She remembered the final scene when Chloe had left and never come back. Father and Chloe had yelled at each other at the door, mostly Father. Mother had stood behind him saying, "Arthur, the neighbors!" Violet had sat at the top of the stairs out of everyone's sight. She had hugged her knees to her chest, bunched up into a tight little ball of terror as Father's bellowing rang through the hall and made the crystal in the chandelier hum. Stephen had been in the front parlor, presumably studying the wallpaper. Violet had heard the front door slam shut and the creaking of the crank that started the hope chest, then the sudden roar of the hope chest's engine as Chloe drove away. The hope chest had been the final straw, as far as Father was concerned. Not the votes for women nonsense, not the damn fool crazy college ideas, not Chloe's insisting that she wanted to do something meaningful, but the hope chest. Granny Mayhew was Father's mother. When she died in 1914, she had left $250 each to Violet and Chloe for their hope chests, and $500 to Stephen for his education. A hope chest was a big wooden trunk that a girl was supposed to fill with things she'd need when she was married, tablecloths and bed linens and dishes and things like that. But of course, money could be a lot more useful than tablecloths. Violet tried not to think about what she would have done with that $250 if they ever really let her have it. Travel, maybe, to South America. They never would, of course, not after what Chloe had done with her hope chest money. No, they'd keep it from Violet, keep it safe for her, as Mother would say, and make her spend it to set up housekeeping with some husband. $250 worth of furniture and linens and housekeeping stuff. The thought of it was oppressive, like high walls closing in on her. But there was nothing she could do about it. Stephen had taken his $500 and enrolled at Cornell University. A year later, he had gone off to Canada, way back in 1915, long before America entered the war. He had enlisted in the Canadian Army and been sent to France to fight the Germans. A few Americans did that. You heard a lot in those days about martyred Belgium, and it made some people mad that America wasn't getting into the war. By the time American boys were being conscripted into the army and sent overseas in late 1917, Stephen was already back, or what was left of him. Chloe had somehow convinced Father to let her go to college. Not a big university like Cornell, of course, but a junior college. Violet wasn't sure how this had been accomplished. Chloe had always been able to talk to Father more than Violet had, at least back when they were still speaking to each other. At the time, Violet was mainly concerned that Chloe was going away, although not very far, and wasn't going to sit at the foot of her bed and tell her stories every night or draw her pictures of Alaska. But then college had led to talk about the settlement houses and being a nurse. And then Chloe had taken her hope chest money, all of it, and bought a used Model T Ford. She even had the effrontery to name it the Hope Chest. So it was for sure that Violet wasn't ever going to get $250. She'd had $3.92 in a jar under her bed, saved up from birthdays and her allowance. It was a remarkable sum, or so she'd always thought, until she bought the train ticket to New York. It had cost $3.25. She tried to buy a half-price ticket, claiming she was under 8, but the ticket clerk had told her in a bored voice that she could either be old enough to travel to New York City by herself or young enough to travel at half fare, but not both. And Violet didn't dare argue, since she was nervous about the trip to New York, and besides, she really wasn't under 8. Well, Chloe would be glad that Violet was coming to live with her. Violet could go to school in New York, and Mother could devote all her time to Stephen. And Father would be positively glad Violet was gone. Mother might